The revolution is real, it's live, and as some comrades say, it's lit, right? lit. Real, live, lit. Right? The revolution is lit.
Uhuru comrades, and welcome to the Omali Taught Me Sunday Study live with the leader of the African nation, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. My name is Akile Anai, the Director of Agitation and Propaganda for the African People's Socialist Party, as well as your MC. Today's episode is themed, What is the Party? Build and Consolidate the African People's Socialist Party, Part 2. As a refresher, the African People's Socialist Party was formed on African Liberation Day in May of 1972, with the merging of three political organizations throughout the state of Florida, the Junta of Militant Organizations, JOMO, out of St. Petersburg, Black Rights Fighters led by Lawrence Mann out of Fort Myers, and the Gainesville Black Study Group led by Keturah Carey. The African People's Socialist Party was founded with the stated mission to complete the Black Revolution of the 1960s, which had been defeated militarily through U.S. colonial counterinsurgency. This was one of the most important developments in the history of the African liberation struggle, as African people were now armed with our own revolutionary political party, guided by revolutionary theory. We continue on with part 2 of this special series of studies that discusses the significance of the founding of the party, the need for a party, the principles that inform and guide our strategy towards liberation, and the basis for the colonial counterinsurgency efforts we've witnessed historically and at present. This week, we'll continue reading from the document, Build and Consolidate the African People's Socialist Party, presented by Chairman Omali Yeshitela in 1986, beginning on the bottom of page 9. We will read alongside the leader of the African nation and worldwide African Revolution, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, then follow with announcements before opening it up for questions and answers from our live audience. And as always, we call on you to spread the word and build the Omali Taught Me show by sharing this study far and wide. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment in the chat. We are fully aware of the war being made on our right, not only to say what's in our interest, but for the people to have access to what we say. So take a moment right now, again, share this video, comment in the chat section, drop a name in the chat, tell them to join this program. Make sure you subscribe to our channels, follow the chairman on all of his social media platforms. So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for your participation in today's study. Let's now get started and welcome our leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Uhuru, Chairman.
Hello, thank you very much, Comrade Director. And I want to express appreciation to everybody who's come on to the study on today. And per usual, especially to the sisters and brothers on the continent of Africa, where I know how difficult it is to participate in these kinds of meetings that rely so much on internet and other technological platforms, precisely because of the the depth and significance of the kind of resources sucked out of Africa on a regular basis. And I'm one of those resources, by the way, as are Africans here and in other places. And some of the other places, of course, throughout the Caribbean, places that they define as underdeveloped. But if there were to be a definition of any kind of accuracy, it would be something like overexploited. And so in these areas around the world, I know it's difficult, and many of you are meeting, participating in this study as groups in particular locations. And if you're in a place like South Africa or a place like Sierra Leone, that it's complicated by occasional electrical loss of electricity, loss of power, that kind of thing. Or in like Niger, loss of power, despite the fact that we are creating electrical power for most of Europe and North America, et cetera, at our own expenses. So welcome and salute to all of you. Special shout out to my dear sister-in-law, Afua Waller, there in Ghana, who's struggling every day to try to build up our presence there in West Africa, along with the other comrades who lead the work in West Africa. I think that it's really important to get into the study. Before we began formally, I was telling comrades, I think this is an extremely important study that we are dealing with. And I think it's important for a number of reasons. The most significant is that the efforts that's being made by all kinds of hostile forces under the leadership of the U.S. colonial powers to crush the revolutionary trajectory of our movement, the resurgence that is glaring, that can be seen all over the world, from Niger to North St. Louis. That this resurgence is something that's hated, that continues to reemerge despite the efforts, and there have been horrendous efforts being made by our oppressors to crush forever the struggle of our people to be free. And the study that we are involved in today, a study that has its origin in a document that was put together in 1986, quite a while ago. What's that, 38 years ago or something like that. It part of what it does is just makes ridiculous on its face the charges that's been made by the United States government that somehow the struggle that we're involved in today was something that was created by the Russians, that somehow we are in the employ of the Russians, and that's why they are justified in attacking our homes and offices and headquarters and comrades at pre-dawn in the morning, knocking our doors down and stealing our materials, and having banks that we work with sanction us so that we cannot have easy access to the kinds of resources that's allowed us to create more than 50 some odd economic development programs that negate the presence, the impact, the effectiveness of colonialism within our communities of North America and increasingly in other places around the world. Just any attention given to this study helps to prove just how ridiculous it is that we have been here. And it also helps to explain why the United States government would feel it necessary to crush us, the African People's Socialist Party, the organization that is rooted in an understanding, that is led by philosophical scientific philosophy, and tactics and strategies that will undermine our oppressors, and that ultimately will destroy the colonial mode of production that holds the world in captivity. this study helps people to understand that, and also the kind of slander that we occasionally come, that's inspired by the United States government, that's inspired by everyone who's threatened at any given moment by success of the struggle against colonialism, anybody who's got a stake in the survival of a system that sucks the blood and life and resources out of African people, and sometimes even self-initiated slander, but in most instances, slander crafted, promoted with as much efficacy as you can find being done by Zuckerberg and all these other people explaining the world in a way that's favorable to our oppression. And this whole, occasionally, we hear the notion that somehow the African People's Socialist Party, that we are different and that we are cult. And of course, we are different. And this is one of the reasons it's important for us to have these studies, because we are different. And what needs to occur is that we have to help the people to recognize, all of the people, not only members of our party and our movement, but all the people need to know that we are different for a reason, and that this difference is not something that makes us a cult. And in fact, the real cult, if you want to find it, is to be found in the Democratic Party. Is to be found in those sycophants who follow blindly behind the United States, and murderers and rapists and people who are stealing land and resources and oppressing peoples all around the world, denying them the right to live lives of equality. And then this notion of being a cult. We go through this document and we talk about our Constitution, we talk about our Congress. I never heard of a cult with a Congress. I never heard of a cult with a Constitution, except most of the organizations that are held up as those that you should follow, if not explicitly stated, implicitly by Zuckerberg and the rest of them, don't have constitutions, don't have Congresses, don't have that kind of participation among the masses of the people. We are a transparent kind of organization. You don't have to break into our homes at 5 o'clock in the morning and steal computers and things like that to find out what we believe and what we stand. In fact, it's precisely because our oppressors know what we believe in that they attack us. And this notion that people would present that somehow that we are cult because of what we do is a part of a slander. And slander is just something that's used by forces who cannot debate with us politically and ideologically, who can't handle that. So they resort to the vicious kind of slander and things like that in an attempt to undermine the people's effort to be free, the people's effort to have dignity that is represented by their own revolutionary organization in the form of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement that we've created. So we'll start on the bottom of page 9. We've talked previously in the last study, we gave a lot of attention to the founding and the significance of the African People's Solidarity Committee, which, by the way, has often been one of the basis of a slander against our party, against our movement. It changes from time to time depending upon who's using it. At one time, the slander was that the African People's Solidarity Committee that we created was simply a group of white lesbians working under the leadership of Black men, which horrors. You can't have that kind of thing. And also a slander that's based on a certain kind of narrow nationalist assumption that African people live in a world by ourselves, and that we don't have to have a scientific assessment of the relationships that we have with other peoples. And white people, of course, on the top of that list. And there's various things wrong with that, despite the fact that it seems to be, it can appear to be an obvious truth that white people are the devil, that white people are a mutation, that white people are different from the rest of us. But it's the only reason it's an obvious truth is because it is something that is given to us based on a lack of understanding by the laws of social development. And what is it that would make white people act a certain way? What is it that makes African people act a certain way and live a certain kind of way? And we are materialists, and we understand the science of society and recognize that all human beings on this earth, regardless of their complexion, regardless on where it is that they live and come from, all human beings, the actual human society itself, the primary motivation is the production, reproduction of life, real life in the world. And so that looks different depending on how people have been thrust, societies have been thrust into motion, even created through this process of creation and recreation of real life. And that will differ based on where people are located, based on a number of different things. But ultimately, the real deal is that the pursuit of the capacity to produce and reproduce life is the fundamental thing that pushes all human beings in society. And as I said, even that is responsible for the creation of societies as they have existed. So I'm on the bottom now of page 9. We went through this discussion about APSC, part of it, and now we're talking about the international work that the parties has always been involved in. As quiet as it's kept, there is a relationship here too, because there have been people who have opposed the African People's Socialist Party. They've been brought and dragged sometimes into an element of daylight through the struggles of the party. But at one juncture, if the people have accepted, our elements of the African population have accepted the white nationalist definition of the world, and which is based on skin complexion, with white people, of course, being on the top. And white people have been made quite mysterious and we've been fed the nonsense that white people are mutants and not real people, and all that nonsense that white people have some kind of godly connection, either for good or for evil, based on some being some devils and things like that. Or if they're not devils, white people are the master race, or white people are a sector of white people, are the chosen people and all this stuff. But white people are people. And that's the final thing that we've come to understand. To destroy this whole mystery of who white people are is something that we've been involved in, and how all of us in the world, whether we're in Iran, Venezuela, whether we're throughout the continent of Africa, and I mean the entire continent of Africa, and wherever African people have been pushed, all of us are engaged in a single, right now, united process. And when I say united, I don't mean without contradiction, because contradictions themselves can be characterized as a unity of opposites. And so we live in this whole world with a relationship to a common process that in its most recent iteration respond to the colonial mode of production through a 600-year process initiated by Portugal when it first attacked Africa and dispersed African people all around the world. It became a looting process. It became a process that gave birth to what we know as Europe now. It took this tiny entity called Portugal and made it something in the world at the expense of Africa first. And then this whole this forced dispersal of African people to different places around the world is what came about. And it was a process that taught other peoples, other countries, how to get rich quick, contributing to even people like Leopold, going to Congo and killing millions and millions and millions of people and stealing resources, dehumanizing Black people, even contributing to the template that signaled the insignificance to African people, to the world, and to African people ourselves. So anyway, the party's work in the international arena is reflected in the message of solidarity to and actual participation in our first Congress by representatives from Colombia, El Salvador, Tanzania, Nicaragua, Grenada, Chile, Argentina, Vietnam, and Barbados. This is our first Congress. We had these incredible participation from forces from everywhere. And this, of course, the first Congress was in 1981 in Oakland, California. Subsequent to our Congress, we have deepened our relationship with the Frente Sandinista de Liberación Nacional, the FSLN in Nicaragua, established relations with the Irish Republican Socialist Party, and launched, although not without some contradictions, an effort to build the African Socialist International. Moreover, within the US, we are struggling to deepen our relationship with the Diné people, who are locked in fierce battle with the US colonialism at Big Mountain in Arizona, and with the colonized Mexican people through our dear comrades in the fraternal organizations of Unión de Barrio. It should be clear as we approach our second party Congress. This is when we're talking about the second party Congress. Again, this is in 1986. It should be clear as we approach our second party Congress that we have much to be proud of as a party. Moreover, our accomplishments are concrete, and their significance can therefore be measured concretely. Not the least of our accomplishments has been the party's first Congress here held in Oakland in 1981. This may be the first Congress ever held by a Black Revolutionary Party in the history of our movement against US colonialism, and it wasn't the first. I mean, the African People's Party had held a Congress prior to that. And I don't even know how that was overlooked, because we actually had someone to represent the party at that Congress. It was a precedent that immediately created rank and file pressure. That is to say, the founding of our Congress was a precedent that immediately created rank and file pressure for Congress within at least one other organization, which is generally thought of as a part of our tendency. The unwillingness of the organization to open itself up to its membership through a Congress was one of the factors which led to a split within its ranks. The significance of the party Congress has already been briefly addressed within this article. However, it must also be said that another significance of the Congress that demands it be held when conditions allow is that it puts the party in the hands of its membership by allowing the membership to elect its leadership and fight for the party's basic policies, direction, and line, some quote. More than anything else, this process, which includes pre-Congress activities, allows the party membership to experience possession of its own party and the line in politics which it represents. The Congress is the highest body of the party and is fundamental to the struggle against spontaneity and commandism, something reflected in one organization's unwillingness to hold a Congress or even have a constitution, preferring instead a policy of leadership through memo. And this notion of struggle against spontaneity, we hate spontaneity, and it is a serious problem. Not because things happen that you aren't planning, as sometimes people understand this question. But when we talk about spontaneity, it's much deeper than that. It's the thing that is our fundamental hedge against spontaneity is knowing where we're going. And all of the work that we do is tethered, is linked to a theory that says this is the outcome that we're fighting for. This is the outcome that we're fighting for. We have a long view. It's not just based on what happens today. When you don't have a theory, when you don't have a long view from which you can see the development of tactics and strategies to get there, but the whole question is having a long view, because if you don't have a long view, then anything that comes along is your long view. So you can be distracted, you can be taken off point any given time because this happened. This happened, you gotta take care of this, do this right now. That becomes your long view. And you can have a situation where your oppressor would actually do something that's horrendous, that would try to disrupt you, to take you from going where it is you're trying to go, because now you're concentrating everything on solving this problem that deflects you, that takes you away from your long view. This is what we mean about spontaneity. And in fact, this is fundamentally the essence of that contradiction. We see spontaneity happen in other ways, but if you don't know where the hell you're going, then any place you go is where you're going. And how do you plan for any place you go? You can't make a plan for that. You understand? So that's essentially, what it is that we are dealing with all the time. That's why somebody's come and say, we want you to, that the house is on fire down the street. Let's everybody rush down and put out the fire. We said, well, damn, we're building 20 blocks of stuff over here. You understand? We can't stop to put out the fire, and we can't sacrifice the 20 blocks of things that we're developing over here for people to live in to put out the fire over there. If we can get somebody over there, we'll help put that fire out. But the fundamental thing is to build what it is that we have this strategic commitment to take on. Some people have problems with us because we can't jump anytime they want to jump. But that's why we have congresses, we have meetings, we plan, we have a strategic view of everything. We got a 5-year plan that we're working on. And sometimes that will prohibit us from doing some things. Not all the time, to the extent that we succeed in growing a movement to get to the to handle the long-term thing that we're fighting for. To the extent that we build more people there, then we can put people in other places to take on, put out some of these brush fires that we might find ourselves having to deal with. So we say perhaps the party's greatest accomplishment has been the 14-year, at this time it was 14 years. So what was that, 10 years ago? No, it was more than 10 years. What was that, 30 years ago? The 14 years we have published The Burning Spear. Founded in 1968 by the Hunter Militant Organizations, JOMO, one of the founding organizations of the APSP, The Burning Spear has been a mainstay of the Black Revolution, maintaining not only the presence of the party subsequent to the defeat of the Black Revolution of the 60s, but also the presence of the Black Revolution itself. When there were no other publications, and increasing, there is no other publication. We have a couple of publications, but in terms of revolutionary projects and revolutionary goals and where it is that you're trying to go, the party has been the fundamental entity that's out there, especially since the demise of the Black Panther newspaper. So it's played a major role in defending and promoting and projecting the whole national liberation struggle of African people. And yeah, so I'm not going to mess with that right now. So these are but a few of the factors which figure into our many strengths and the promise of an excellent and promising future as we approach our second Congress. These are the factors which have contributed to the slow but definite movement toward the party by many persons who have previously been ensconced within various political tendencies and formations, which have not resulted in any movement toward transforming our material reality, enhancing our fighting capacity of our people, or a concrete application of theory, a concrete application of theory, a concrete application of theory. It is here that our weaknesses have a potential for turning our strengths into the opposite if we do not give them the most serious attention. Some of these weaknesses, and as I go through the weaknesses, you can see that these are things that we're struggling with all the time. Some of these weaknesses have been spoken of before. The most outstanding problem has been the rationalization of the party structure. In a paper prepared for July 1983 National Conference on the Current Situation, this problem was summed up in this manner. I'm going to say something about that, but you see that we continuously refer to our work. We say we did this in 1983. We said this time. We said this. You can see a continuum here of development, that we've been on a single trajectory to forward this revolution. And despite what setbacks the movements have had at any given time, there has been this organization, this party, this African internationalism that has been the stream that's kept it moving forward. Some people who never heard of us before now can come to some kind of understanding of why you are in motion today, partially because of the work that the party has been doing for more than 50 years. So we talked about this in paper 1983, National Conference on the Current Situation that we held. This problem was summed up in this manner. Rationalization of our leadership structure is called for by the party constitution. All unfulfilled offices of the political bureau must be filled. Otherwise, the political bureau will continue to suffer from a workload greater than its capacity and will ultimately pose a threat to democratic centralism within the party and the political integrity of the Central Committee. The current political bureau leadership must become more strategic in approach to specific areas of work under individual leadership and to party programs in general. Long-term planning, particularly within the various departments, is a necessary hedge against intra-party spontaneity and organizational opportunism. What is opportunism? Opportunism is sacrificing long-term aim of the African working class, the revolution, for some kind of short-term thing that you might be able to achieve. And that's something that is easy for the party to fall in terms of organizational opportunism. We know we're supposed to have this kind of structure, we have this kind of organization, what have you, but we find ourselves just filling in with this despite the fact that it's not what we need to get where we're going in the long term. So we patching stuff up, and that's a form of spontaneity. That's why we say spontaneity is the mother of opportunism, because it's an ongoing process of doing things independent or separate from the long-term aims of the revolutionary project itself. The party must rapidly enhance and rationalize party education for the general membership, as well as the masses of the African working class. We're talking about party education for us, and for the working class, because what has happened is that the people aren't stupid. If the people don't believe in democratic centralism, it's because the government, the white power, has now corrupted the consciousness of the people to such an extent that lying is common, lying is expected to be okay, blaming and avoiding blame is what you do and not solve problems. You don't make criticism about real things so that you can solve problems. You just avoid blame. You don't want to be blamed for anything, so you never get resolution to real problems that you have. So we want to educate ourselves about organizational principles. We need to be represent the kind of society that we're trying to rebuild, recreate, will be a society that's represented by these kinds of principles that people can have in life. You don't have to lie. You don't want to lie. In fact, lies cover up contradictions, and you can't solve the problem if people are lying about them. There's some comrades who were great comrades who came to work in a project we were involved in St. Petersburg, Florida. Never forget these. These were hard-working, incredible comrades. They were people from the Solidarity movement who had certain technical skills and things like that. We brought them into St. Petersburg because we were renovating the building that the Uhuru House, where the Uhuru House is now, the one that the U.S. government attacked on July 29th, 2022. And so, you know, when we purchased this place, it was a wreck. And we were in a hurry to try and get it fixed up. And so that we can make it operational and have the people come to it. And I would come and say, well, how are we? How's it looking? And the comrade said, oh, it'll be ready in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, it's not ready. When is it going to be ready? Well, it'll be ready 2 more weeks. And so this thing will go on because they were saying this to please me. And not because based on some realistic appraisal of when it could happen. And because to do this, to avoiding, you know, they would avoid blame for it, et cetera. But I'm not trying to blame you. I'm trying to solve a problem. Because if you say when it's going to be, what the problem is, then we can fix it. We can say, let's do this to get it done more quickly or more efficiently or something to that effect. You don't want to do that. You don't want to live in a society where people learn how the fact they have to lie. They have to blame people and avoid blame. And this is, the kind of stuff. They got even TV shows that people go to and watch all the time. They watch people get blamed and avoiding blame and stuff like that. It's a cultural norm for what people characterize as the West, Western imperialism. I don't know how true it is, but when I was a young person, I came to understand that the indigenous people here in this land that we are on now, when they couldn't get used to the white man when he came, because they didn't understand. I think I've heard there was no word for lie in their language, and so they were in trouble. They said the white man speaks with two tongues. How the hell does it say this and then do something else, etc.? So anyway, the whole point is that that we don't want to have that kind of situation. So we say, so we want to rationalize party education for ourselves and for the people. That's why we would have this discussion. We invite the people to be in on these discussions so you understand what you see when you see criticism, self-criticism. You understand what it is. You understand what you see when you see us move and act a certain way. This ain't no secret. This ain't no damn cult. We are what the rebuilding social norms among the people so that you don't have to do that kind of stuff, right? You don't have to live in a society where people are having clandestine kinds of lives, etc. Our lives can be wide open to each other, can be transparent as the 14-point platform in the Brenningsville newspaper. So, so the party must rapidly enhance and rationalize party education for the general membership as well as the masses of the African working class. The party's formal political education curriculum became obsolete with the Florida conference, where an internal struggle against rightist tendencies was initiated, and the party's work was informed by the slogan, "From the people to the party, from the party to the people." Subsequent to this, there has been a haphazard approach to political education, and the various levels of party organizations have not assumed the proper roles and functions of political education. This conference reaffirms the party's understanding that political education among the membership is the foundation of internal party democracy, and political education among the working class, among the African working class, is the only means by which the masses can determine whether the party is maintaining its integrity as the advanced detachment of the class and national liberation struggle. We want the people to be educated. We want the people to know. We want the people to know what we stand for. That's why we say they don't have to attack us at 5 o'clock in the morning pre-dawn to steal our materials to find out what we believe, what we stand for. Read the Burning Spear. Come to a meeting, come to this meeting that we're involved in right now. You can know what it is because we want the people to know it. The people cannot hold us accountable unless they know what the hell it is that we stand for. We want the people to hold us accountable. So the party must develop a more scientific approach to the utilization of our meager resources, consciously concentrating more of those resources in the areas where the party organizations and programs are already in place. The party must deepen the coordination and deepen the coordination and rationalization of the relationship between local, district, regional committees and the Central Committee, Political Bureau, and other party organizations and institutions. This I know is trying sometimes, and sometimes more than other times. Because it appears to be much easier to just get it done. Just get it done. So if we don't have people who are doing what they're supposed to be doing in the political bureau, well, let's forget it. They're doing. Let's get it done. But that when you sacrifice your organization like that, the organizational integrity like that, you're not building. You really are not building. You're not strengthening your capacity. You're weakening your capacity, and you're deepening that element of weakness by solving that damn problem. Because at some juncture, all junctures, you really need those structures in place. They're in place for a reason. So the party must develop a comprehensive recruitment program and implement it within our party organizations. The party must purge its membership rolls of all party members who prove unable or unwilling to exist and function as members in good standing as determined by the party constitution, rules of party discipline, and the organizational manual of the African People's Socialist Party. And, laws in the party are made more to place restrictions on leaders than it is on members of the party. I mean, these are laws for the whole organization. The law and order of the party can be found in these constitutions, these rules of discipline. And, again, to challenge this whole nonsense about cults and what you stand for, et cetera. Although some of these problems are still with us. I'm saying this in 1986, 38 years ago. All of them do not affect us in the same way or with the same significance as in 1983. For example, some of these problems will begin to be resolved with the Congress itself, which will elect leadership for the various offices called for by the Constitution, and the question of rationalization of party education is currently being addressed with some party organizations currently involved in intensive daily political education, which utilizes the party's standard party educational curriculum. However, although the significance of the contradictions concerning education and party structures are not exactly as they were in 1983, they remain nevertheless at the core of our weaknesses. The fact is that even as the quantity and quality of our tasks grow, party members suffer from a serious lack of theoretical development and organizational training. The main task of the party, to build and consolidate the party, is tied to the recognition of these difficulties as much as it is tied to building for the second party Congress. This is the way it must be. For many of the forces who are moving toward the party today are from the petty bourgeoisie in terms of class background. And many of them are new to political life. We've got a situation now where so many people are just entering into political life. They've been pushed into political life by the contradiction that we find in the whole international community, the growing struggles, the deepening of the intent, the actions, the pushing people into greater states of poverty and despair, the massive, how much political education is happening on these college campuses right now. On the college campus, think about this, there are thousands and thousands of people who are being thrust into political life by the actions of the government, by the contradictions, by the heroism of the colonized people who are striking out and thereby calling into question the legitimacy and morality of the system that they believed in all this time. This is magnificent, a process that's occurring right now. These are people who are ripe for political development, but they're coming out of sororities and fraternities. They heard about the NAACP. They heard something about Black Lives Matter. But they don't have political education. They need explanation. And our experience already show us that they're asking for people to come in, provide teachings and do things like that to educate them so they can understand the world as it is. These are new people being pushed into the ranks of the revolutionary movement. This is thrilling. Some people are all despair. Look at what they're doing to the children. Hell, they're doing this to children all over the damn world. And ain't nothing like what's happening in Gaza. The thing is that they're pushing them into a political awakeness and opening them up to understanding the world differently than the university. The universities are not teaching people this stuff. The universities are sending the police and everything there to keep the people from learning this kind of stuff. So we have to be there. We have to recruit the people. We have to give the people an alternative. But we also, because this is a period where more people are going to be trying to join our ranks. Therefore, we have to be tighter. We have to be clearer. We have to understand better and be able to convey this understanding with greater efficiency than ever. So it's a magnificent moment that we can fill the ranks of the people, but we want to fill the ranks of the people. We want to be capable of doing that. And you can't do it if the people who are in our ranks already suffer tremendously from ideological and political development, right? Right. So anyway, we said many of the people who are recruiting at this time are intellectuals. The fact is that the U.S. government has succeeded in crushing the African Revolution. And so many of them are intellectuals whose general level of theoretical development and expertise in other areas will prove invaluable to the party, which has experienced some limitations from the lack of intellectuals. This lack of intellectuals, of party members whose objective class position is from the petty bourgeoisie, from party members whose objective class position is from the petty bourgeoisie, has been one of the unusual features of our party. It has been an unusual feature of the party. I mean, watching these nationalist organizations, being part of them as they were coming about, many born of student movement, like Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, people were engaged in some of the highest levels of theoretical discussions and stuff. They introduced us to Fanon and many other forces like that. But these were students, many of them, and many of them were aspiring petty bourgeois forces that came, and many of them mobilized because of their aspirations to be successful within the framework of the existing social system. But the party was always an organization of the working class, and we suffered. We didn't know a lot of stuff, which takes us to some other kinds of contradictions we don't have time to get into right now. But we said because the Black working class suffered such a serious and total defeat during the Black Revolution of the 60s, most of the remaining or existing Black organizations have been organizations of various representatives and sectors of the Black petty bourgeoisie. However, the African People's Socialist Party was born of at least one organization that survived the 60s and had an uninterrupted historical developing from the 60s, despite the general defeat of the Black Revolution. And that was true. And this was something that played a major role in our continuous development. Because a lot of people and groups that were heroic in the 1960s, where you got everybody locked up in a prison, you got thousands of people who were in prisons, et cetera, the organizations dispersed and what have you, their development, politically, theoretically, or organizationally, was extremely limited and truncated, to say the least. In fact, most of their development revolved around getting out of prison, and that was not sufficient for the kind of development. The party was out here trying to get them out of prison and trying to do other kinds of things to forward the African Revolution, because we came to understand that their imprisonment was a part of the assault on the African Revolution. So the struggle to make the African Revolution, liberate African people, did not end because some people went to prison. Some organizations were destroyed to the point that we were capable of taking the struggle forward, which is what the African People's Socialist Party was born to do, characterize itself as, define itself as being able to complete the revolutionary project. That's what we were doing. And we didn't say, okay, now we got a number of people who are in prison, then what we have to do is change what we're about and turn into an organization just to get people out of prison. We want to get people out of prison, but that's a function of the revolution, not a function of just getting people out of prison. So our movement does not revolve around getting people out of prison. Hell, I was in and out of prison all the time. I spent a couple of years in prison myself. But the thing is to take the revolutionary project forward, and in the process of doing that, destroy prisons, destroy the social system, and get these comrades out. But this is the part of the struggle that's the only thing that's going to get them out of prison. To be able to continue this offensive against the system, Make the system have to turn them loose. Make the system have to stop using his hands to hold people down. Make the system have to use his hands to cover his ass, because we are pushing, to make this revolution happen on the ground. We don't stop. We escalate to the point that it's possible to do that. So hence we were able to develop upon the advances of our revolution of the 60s and to become a revolutionary party of the Black working class in actual composition as well as ideology. The defeat of the Black revolution of the 60s means that the Black petty bourgeoisie as well as the Black working class would lose confidence in the ability of the Black working class to lead our revolution to a successful conclusion. So it's, being wasted like that, the murders, assassinations of people all around, the mass imprisonments of people, the people lost confidence. The petty bourgeoisie lost confidence. The white left lost confidence in the Black revolution. And not only did it lose confidence in the Black revolution, it assumed the role, it attempted to assume the role of the Black revolution to lead African people and not to participate in enhancing and make that revolution successful, but to take over. That's what we saw the white left do. And then African people ourselves, in many instances, lost confidence in the revolution. Mass what do you characterize it as? Where people were demoralized, the African masses demoralized. Every time we get a leader, the white man kill him. Every time we do this and that, they ain't gonna let you get away with this. This became pervasive throughout the African community. It ain't gonna happen no more. That's what we have to be committed to, because we're gonna continue this trajectory to forward the revolution. That has to be the thing that's on the top of the agenda all the time. And even as it relates to the intent of the colonial powers to put me in prison for the rest of my life, the objective has to be to forward the revolution. This is the only thing that will make my life meaningful, is to forward this revolutionary project. That's why we say we're not just defending me. We are using this as a counteroffensive to deepen the revolutionary process and revolutionary project. Yeah. So thus many organizations, some of which were extremely radical, were built to serve the needs and aspirations of the Black petty bourgeoisie. But few elements of the Black petty bourgeoisie were willing to peel away from the Black petty bourgeoisie and join with the revolutionary Black working class party. They would stand on the wayside and yell from afar. They would say, yeah, we see y'all doing this here, but y'all got them white people there. Bring your Black ass over here. Making no room in the end for the white people because you are there. You understand? We're gonna forward the revolution, and it's gonna be the revolution on the leadership of the African working class. And the African petty bourgeoisie, you're just gonna have to get used to that reality. So you say that they lost confidence until now. Until now, when the party has proved itself over and over again, even to the satisfaction of our enemies, and even as the petty bourgeois organizations have finally succeeded in demonstrating their extreme limitations and, in some instances, their bankruptcy. This is a recurring thing that happens over and over again. The new elements coming into the party will bring them many skills with them. They will also bring with them their experiences within petty bourgeois organizations, their one-sided development that is generally devoid of practice, and sometimes, due to the nature of their development, some contempt for the Black working class. This is one of the reasons building and consolidating the party is such an urgent task at this moment. This is one of the reasons theoretical development and organizational training for our cadre is such an urgent task for our party at this moment. For while building for the Second Party Congress, we must bring the best of these new brothers and sisters, along with the hundreds of ordinary Black workers into the party. But in order to protect and develop the revolutionary essence of the party, we must be capable of representing the party correctly. Otherwise, we will make many errors and our party's strengths will which led new sectors to us, will become our weaknesses in the face of the inability of inexperienced and poorly trained cadre to uphold them. That's one of the reasons, I have such a real appreciation for veterans of our party and our movement. Such a deep appreciation. To have existed as long as we have existed, and and of course we really ongoing process of bringing new people into the party, especially since this attack on us by the U.S. government. More and more people are attracted to us. But the thing that's really important is, as we bring these new comrades into, we made some horrible errors in terms of some people we brought into the party. We experiencing that even now. But the fact is, we have this foundation of cadre. People have been here for a long period of time. You have to exist long enough for that to happen. To have people, who are foundational, fundamental, understanding exactly what it is and that we stand for, and then going through this practice over and over again. Sometimes people get tired because it's such a redundancy over and over and over. We're studying and learning how to do things, becoming better at doing these things. We got to have another session on that and another training on that. Well, I just did that 4 months ago. Yes, and we're going to do it 4 months again. And we have this foundation. So when new forces come in, it's almost by rote. People know how to do stuff. Ain't that right, Lynn? Almost by rote. People know how to do stuff. And so we bringing in, new cadre, new forces, et cetera, but we have this foundation that we rest upon. And so we say, to paraphrase former Black Panther leader Huey P. Newton, when he was a revolutionary during the Black Revolution of the 60s, the party must be the ox upon whose backs the masses ride. That's the party. Huey had a flair for words. And much earlier, two 19th century European revolutionaries, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, authored a similar statement with this quote: "The communists, therefore, are on the one hand practically the most advanced and resolute section of the working class parties of every country, that section which pushes forward all others. On the other hand, theoretically, they have over the great mass of the proletariat the advantage of clearly understanding the line of march, the conditions, and the ultimate general results of the proletariat movement." Ain't that so? That's who we are. That's who we are. That's the outstanding thing. That's the thing that makes them say we are cult, because we different. and it's sort of like Mike Tyson, he different. That's who we are. Yes. So having declared, give us an organization of revolutionaries and we will overturn Russia. Lenin set upon the task to build the revolutionary organization that overturned Russia and became the prototype for revolutionary organizations of the oppressed and exploited peoples throughout the world. Such a party is different from the parties which have existed before and which were generally in the service of oppressor and exploiting classes, notwithstanding the limited and occasional membership of the oppressed peoples and exploited classes. Such a party is the vanguard, the advanced detachment of the working class. It is a party of communists, a party of a new type. Such a party is the African People's Socialist Party. So, yes. So I'm running into a little thing here. Yeah, 15. So, Lenin caught hell. I mean, he led a revolutionary movement. He had to fight all the damn socialists in Europe. He had to fight them all of them. He had to fight them. He was different. His objective, he didn't go by the rules that had been established for parties and things like that, et cetera. So yeah, we're different. And they called him and his organization by all kinds of names too, others within what was the European Socialist movement, a communist movement at the time. So, yeah. So generally speaking, the Black working class has been taught the value of organization and discipline by life in general and by the actual conditions of life for the class. This is true, despite the fact that at certain times, such as now, After the class has suffered a major defeat like the Black Revolution of the 60s, class has to regain confidence in its own leadership and organization. The domestically colonized African working class does not fear organization and discipline. Its participation in our most successful organizations in modern times, Universal Negro Improvement Association, Nation of Islam, and the Black Panther Party clearly demonstrate this. The necessary unity and centralization of the party cannot exist without discipline. The necessary unity and centralization of the party cannot exist without discipline. Just as organization and political consciousness go hand in hand, so do organization and discipline go hand in hand. Hence, a basic organizational principle of our party is democratic centralism, which unites our party around a single center with single rules and a single discipline. Article 8, this is of the Constitution as it existed then, but it resides wherever it's located and structured now. Article 8 of the party's constitution from section 1 through 7 establishes the legal basis for democratic centralism within our party, and the party's manual on organization gives this brief description of democratic centralism. Democratic centralism is the system according to which, one, all leading committees of the party, from the unit bureau up to the highest committees, are elected by the membership or delegates of the given party organization. Number two, every elected party committee must report regularly on its activity to its party organization. It must give account of the work. Number three, the lower party committees and all party members of the given party organizations have the duty of carrying out the decisions of the higher party committees and the central committee. In other words, decisions of the central committee and the higher party committees are binding upon the lower bodies. Number four, party discipline is observed by party members and party organizations because only those who agree with the program of the African People's Socialist Party and the central committee can become members of the party. Now, you agree, this is what it is that we stand for, Number five, it's not like the mafia or somebody where they're gonna shoot you in the kneecap or something if you disagree and what have you, or if you agree to this. And that's why, the process of bringing people into the organization is so important. Most times it's successful, sometimes it doesn't work that well. Number five, the minority carries out the decisions of the majority, subordination of the minority to the majority. Party questions are discussed by the members of the party and by the party organization until such time as the decision is made by the party committee or organization. After a decision has been made by the leading committee, by the central committee of the party, or by the party's national congress, this decision must be unreservedly carried out, even if the minority of the party organization is in disagreement with it. When we say unreservedly carried out, we don't mean that a decision has been made and the majority voted on and you had a different view, and therefore when you go out to carry the work, because it might be unpopular, like this thing, we made a decision about Obama. We lost our party organization in Long Island because of the decision we made on Obama. And because the masses were Africans hysterically, excited about what appeared to be a Black man now in charge of our lives and what that was going to mean. And because we saw what it meant, who he was, etc., we had a different view. The party leadership did, but some people folded under the pressure of masses of people. Their grandmama and everybody, who, hysterically, supportive of this guy. And so they weren't able to hang. They weren't able to stay. We lost, like I said, in Long Island, we lost the whole party organization like that. We lost the whole party organization in France around the question of homosexuals. because we refused, the party refused to take some kind of a denunciatory position on homosexuals, that we didn't condemn. And we said we're not going to allow the struggle of African liberation to be split, to have some kind of split, the working class and the African nation around this question, this struggle against, against colonial oppressors. We're not going to do that. And so we lost the whole organization in France at one point because of that. But we stand for something. And the thing is, to be able to fight for it and defend it is really important to be able to do that. So these decisions have to be carried out. And some people are not able to carry out the decisions and what have you. And it's better, if you can't carry it out, to quit than to stay in. And that's the principal thing to do, resign. But to stay in and disrupt and do nasty stuff in the organization, that's the unprincipled stuff to do. And to end up working for the federal government, that's the unprincipled thing to do, to turn against the people in that fashion. So number 6, party organizations, units, and regions have the full initiative, right, and duty to decide on local questions within the limits of the general policies and decisions of the party. So we say that the relationship between the party and the people is the concretization of the embodiment of the relationship between the masses and the revolutionary process. The relationship between the party and the people is the concretization, the embodiment of the relationship between the masses and the revolutionary process. This is the concrete, the relationship that the party has with the people. That's the fundamental thing. In its anti-colonial socialist policy and activities, the party proceeds from the fact that the masses of the Black working class are the real makers of history, the decisive forces of social development. They're the real makers of history. The party's strength lies in its links with the masses. The Black working class strength lies in the leadership of the party. The party's strength lies in its links with the masses. The Black working class's strength lies in the leadership of the party. Hence, the support and confidence of the colonized African working class are valued more than anything by the party. Hence, the party constantly struggles to multiply and consolidate links with the non-party people and to acquire the confidence of the masses. Hence, the party fights against any kind of sectarianism which could isolate it from the people, and at the same time against any attempt to dissolve the party in the mass of the people. Do you understand what we're saying here? We're not sectarian that separate ourselves from people, but we don't. We resist any attempt to dissolve the party, into the masses of the people in the fashion that that we liquidate our revolutionary leadership and just become one of the people. As the advanced detachment of the domestically colonized African working class within the U.S. prison of nations, the party is called upon to train and enlighten the people. The party and all African internationalists must constantly carry out ideological educational work among the toiling masses. The party must take into consideration their needs, and we must consult with them. I don't mean, as I've seen some people understand this in different organizations, that we have to go out and take a poll in the African community to find out what Black people think about this and that, et cetera. I mean, I don't mean we have to do that. I mean, we live in the society, and it's a social contradictions that we are afflicted with, social contradictions that we are afflicted with. And people at any given time, we may want to do a poll for some specific thing that we are taking on, but generally speaking, we don't have to do a poll of the people to find out that they experience oppression. We don't have to do a poll of the people to find out there ain't no damn stores or supermarkets there. We don't have to do a poll among the people to see that we're being pushed out of our homes, et cetera. All you got to do is stand any place in the community. And that's one of the interesting things, because one thing that I used to love to attend is in New York. They call it West Indian Day. Where is that? Is that Brooklyn or Harlem? Brooklyn. And the government is terrified by groups of Black people coming together just to watch a parade and dance and have a good time. Because what conversation can a group of slaves have with each other? So it's a real, no matter what you came out there to do, groups of Black people end up having to make critiques of our lives. And the government, they come out on horseback every year. They come out horseback, all kinds of stuff. And when it looks like it's getting dark, they'll push the Africans out of there. They didn't take a poll. The government didn't have to take a poll. They know that the conditions that African people experience are such that, that's going to be, it's always articulated among the masses of the people. White people might need to do a poll. What's it called? The Party of Socialism and Liberation might have to do a poll, but they know too. So Mao Zedong, the great Chinese revolutionary, once summed this process up in this manner. And this is from Mao. In all the practical work of our party, all correct leadership is necessary from the masses to the masses. This means take the ideas of the masses, scattered and unsystematic ideas, and concentrate them through study, turn them into concentrated and systematic ideas. Then go to the masses and propagate and explain these ideas until the masses embrace them as their own, hold fast to them, and translate them into action. And test the correctness of these ideas in such action. Then once again, concentrate ideas from the masses. And once again, go to the masses so that the ideas are persevered in and carried through, and so on, over and over again in an endless spiral, with the ideas becoming more correct, more vital, and richer each time. That was Mao. So the party must constantly work to develop the initiative of the mass of non-party people. This is really important. The party must constantly work to develop the initiative of the mass of non-party people and work with the people regularly in order to guarantee at every step that the party's links with the people are maintained, and in order to gauge how strong these links are at any given time. The strength of the party and its links with the masses of our people are dependent upon our implementation of inter-party democracy, criticism, and self-criticism. The whole of inter-party life is directed at drawing larger and larger sections of the party membership into active party work. The party constantly struggles to develop in every possible way the activity and initiative of African internationalists and their individual responsibility for the affairs of the party. What this means is that although our Central Committee and various other party leaders and organizations have their responsibilities to uphold in the party, individual members of the party are also responsible for the affairs of the party. Individual members of the party. Yeah. And sometimes it's something that's not automatically understood and recognized. And we'll probably say more about this moving forward. In the past, some petty bourgeois forces have come into the party from the experience of so-called party building movements of the 70s. This was a period which followed the actual defeat of the Black Revolution of the 60s. It saw the emergence of the radical petty bourgeoisie of all nationalities in competition with each other for the loyalty of the masses of our then leaderless people who had no part in the theoretical dispute and whose material interests were not considered by the petty bourgeois intellectuals who were determined to lead us. And as the struggle between the petty bourgeois intellectuals were separate from the real material needs of the people, the disputes generally centered around purely theoretical questions. The petty bourgeois radicals would catch each other making errors in formulating theories separate from revolutionary practice. That's really, something, I mean, separate from revolutionary practice. I mean, it's one of the things too, perhaps I mentioned it, but this thing about slander, that you will see that people will slander the party, and sometimes all times they're instruments of the government. Sometimes they're willing and know that that's what they're doing. And they will make all kinds of accusations. And the final analysis, the question that we always have to ask is, what the hell is what this person or this group saying that represents a criticism of our philosophy, our theory, of our practice, our work, our tactics, and our strategy? That becomes a substitute. Slander is a substitute for that, because these are things that cannot be fought, they cannot successfully struggle around. It's like the US government. It will attack us and say we were working for Russia. Why will it do that? Because it cannot debate us around what it is we actually stand for, what it is we're really doing. So they say, we want y'all to talk about Russians and not about reparations, and not about colonialism, and not about the history of oppression and enslavement of African people. Talk about Russians. So, and this is a typical thing of all slander, from the highest to the lowest levels, and it's really important for us to understand that. This act of catching people making errors became a great sport among these radical petty bourgeois forces. It became more important than revolutionary practice and a revolutionary program, with the interests of the Black working class as its basis. The greatest revolutionaries in these circles were those who, using the written works of revolutionaries of other places and generally of other periods, caught the greatest number of theoretical errors made by other petty bourgeois radical intellectuals using the same written works. This process of catching errors was transferred into our party in the past by some of these intellectuals. This process would actually allow them to see an error being made and not assume responsibility for correcting themselves or for calling attention to it themselves. That's what party means, that every party member is responsible for solving the problems of the party, for carrying out the mission of the party. But catching, that wasn't necessary. What you do, you can watch an error being made and then catch somebody because they made an error. Their style was to catch the individual making the error, or indeed to catch the entire party leadership making an error, or to catch the party in error. Hence, catching was more important than the practical program of the party, and more important than the party's strategical objectives. While this catching was the basis for determining leadership within the petty bourgeois radical circles, what catching obscured in the real world was the absence of individual responsibility for the revolutionary process. Yes. We have a situation where there are forces in the world who really, really are pleased and excited by anything that they think is an error that we make, that the revolution makes. It validates them. It validates Biden. It validates, and we make errors. You can't not make errors. But anything that they see, happen bad among the masses of African people, say, see, look what the Black people do to themselves. This is validation. They are not displeased. They're not they're not offended by things that errors that we make, that probably have. They're excited by it. They glorify that. They hold it up because that's an example for them of the validity of our being oppressed. So while catching may be appropriate for groups of petty bourgeois radicals and ersatz revolutionaries whose individualism mocks the principles of revolutionary organization they claim to pursue, it is entirely out of place within the African People's Socialist Party, where the principle of criticism and self-criticism exists side by side with the principle of individual responsibility for the affairs of the party. Individual responsibility for the affairs of the party. We engage in criticism and self-criticism within the party in order to advance the interests of the revolutionaries as expressed in the line, program, and strategic objectives of the party. Let me check with you, Comrade Director, how we doing?
All right, Chairman, we can do about 10 more minutes.
Okay. The party must face its weaknesses soberly. The party must criticize its shortcomings and mistakes in order to correct them. It is only by facing up to contradictions, errors, and shortcomings that they may be corrected. Hence, criticism and self-criticism I want to say this too, because this is a matter of principle for us. This whole notion of criticism, self-criticism. Because there've been occasions where somebody says, well, I was in the party and they did all these things and I quit. And that's why I quit, and which is a lie. Because it's a matter of principle. If something is wrong, criticize it. And if you don't criticize it, what's wrong, then do a self-criticism for not criticizing it. But don't say something was wrong with the party and that's why you left. Because the party has opened the door. It's a matter of principle. Criticism and self-criticism is a matter of principle. That's why we would teach about it in the open like this. So everybody in the world knows it's a matter of principle. Slander is not a matter of principle. So hence criticism and self-criticism in the party are a method of correcting errors and calling attention to shortcomings that might be detrimental to the party and to the realization of the party's program and strategic objectives. Unlike the petty bourgeois practice of catching, which is a practice of blame and avoiding blame that creates a fear of admitting mistakes openly and honestly, the party's principle of criticism and self-criticism is recognition that fear of admitting mistakes open and honestly and a failure to correct them in time prevents the party from fulfilling our role as leaders of the domestically colonized African working class and the toiling masses. This question, we see this all the time, though. This whole question of someone saying, I used to be in the party, or want to be in the party, but I'm always criticized. And I was criticized for this, I was criticized for that, and criticism and self-criticism, that's a part of the party life. And if you raised this principle of blaming and avoiding blame, and you cannot integrate into your brains, your consciousness, the concept of criticizing and criticism as a means of correcting errors, then you're going to be in trouble, because your criticism is going to happen if we function correctly. And, that's how the party should function in most instances, in every instance. Another firm African internationalist principle is ideological and organizational unity. This does not call for any kind of unity. The party is opposed to unity based on a reconciliation of opposing lines. The party's line is one which is based on a scientific appraisal of the requirements of the revolution at every period. It is a line which must withstand the test of practice, and which the party as an organization, through its legitimate process and procedures, including the party Congress, has come to accept as the only correct line. Hence, the unity of the party is based on the party's line, and not on a reconciliation of the party's line with some other line which may be imported into the party. The basic party line, the only one which reflects the general reality of the conditions of existence for Africans within the US, the line which wherein a general description of the world and our place in it is as domestically colonized subjects is to be found, appears in every issue of the party's journal, the Burning Spear, and reads thusly: all of our work is guided by our understanding that our struggle for national liberation within US borders is an integral part of the whole African liberation movement, that the African liberation movement itself is a part of the great contest between the ever-emerging forces of international socialism and the dying but not yet dead forces of imperialism. That the particular character of the African liberation movement within the US is a struggle against US domestic colonialism. That the destruction of colonialism led by a conscious Black Revolutionary Socialist Party will constitute the critical blow in the struggle for socialism within US borders. So this basic party line, upon which we have expanded and elucidated to constitute 4 critical points of understanding, compromise the party's worldview. And together with the party's 14-point working platform, the basic party line constitutes the African People's Socialist Party General Party program. Hence, the general unity of the party is based on the party's basic party line, and our unity around specific questions is forged through application of our basic party line to specific points of the general party program as it is reflected in the particular issues and questions we are confronted with in life. Ours is a unity then that is based on consistent African internationalism. As the advanced detachment of the African working class colonized within current US borders, as that section which pushes forward all others, and which has over the great mass of the proletariat the advantage of clearly understanding the line of march, the conditions and ultimate general results of the proletarian movement, the party must lead everything. This clearly challenges the liberal petty bourgeois idea that the various social, cultural, and youth organizations which exist in our communities or on the campuses or in prison even are just simply organizations of the people which somehow stand outside history and have no class character or political significance in the struggle for national liberation and socialism. In the past, the party has itself on occasion succumbed to this liberal anti-revolutionary petty bourgeois stance within the national liberation movement. This has even led to the party abdicating our responsibility to lead mass organizations that the party has built to deal with fundamental questions of strategic value to our struggle. In more than one instance, due to the alarmist cries by the petty bourgeois, mostly African, but also multinational, who screamed indignation that our party had the foresight and practical ability to lead our movement forward, the party has retreated to the detriment of our revolution. While genuine revolutionaries would have been self-critical for their inability to lead around any of the questions and issues the party has retrieved from obscurity, while genuine revolutionaries would have given all their support to the party, these petty bourgeois forces joined with all the forces of reaction in a great din of anti-party fervor. Today, the party has come to terms with the fact that not only must we not be apologetic for leading, it is our absolute responsibility to lead. The party must help the mass organizations, the community organizations, prison collectives, and campus groups to work out the correct political line and to properly direct their activities toward political independence, African liberation, and socialism. This is the party's task, because all the party's work prepares it best for this responsibility. And because the party is the most perfect and highest form of Black working class organization and the highest expression of the people's will to struggle. Within the ranks of the party are the most advanced, most conscious representatives of the colonized African population, the Black working class and the toiling masses, the representatives upon whose shoulders rests the ultimate responsibility for raising up the revolutionary, scientifically guided consciousness of the Black working class. It is clear that the liberation of our people and the emancipation of our class cannot be won by just any kind of organization. It is even clearer that many existing organizations have absolutely no interest in making revolution, and that even some of the radical nationalist organizations are only willing to go just so far. However, the role of the political leader cannot be fulfilled by the party as the highest form of organization for national liberation and emancipation of the working class. Let me say this again. However, the role of the political leader can only be fulfilled by the party as the highest form of organization for national liberation and the emancipation of the Black working class. The role of the party as political leader requires the recognition of the absolutely hostile relationship our people have to U.S. colonialism and the various forms of imperialist domination of Africans the world over, as well as to the irreconcilability of the class contradictions between world capitalism led by U.S. imperialism and the toiling masses of the world. So I'm going to stop here. This is page, where am I?
This is page 25, the middle of page.
Yeah, we'll stop on page 25.
Uhuru, Chairman. Yes, what a profound study, what an important document it is, as you stated in the beginning of this study. And, just as we, wrapped up this section, I just thought it was really significant to see, what you are saying in this document in 1986 and how much it's clear that the party has given leadership to over our last 52 years of struggle. And not just the fact that colonialism is, now this major discussion point, but to actually pull together an entire movement that carries out on this anti-colonial trajectory. And we can talk more about that, but, just the evidence of the party's leadership is really clear in the world today. And it explains why the US government initiated this assault on you, our party and movement, and the Uhuru 3. So, comrades, we will continue the study of Build and Consolidate. As mentioned, we are in the middle of page 25. So we'll pick back up in our next Sunday study. But now is the period where we're getting ready for questions and discussion from our live audience. We do have some questions that came in our last week's study, and we would like to also take a look at some of those. It was in regards to the first half of, or the first section of Build and Consolidate that we read. So we would like to take a look at some of those questions that we received from the last study as well. Before we get into Q&A, and make sure, comrades, if you do have a question for the chairman, please go ahead and include it into the chat, wherever it is that you're watching, so that we can, make sure to get that question in the queue while we go through our announcements. So we can go ahead and get those. Oh, yes, Chairman.
Yeah, a comment. Can you go back? No, I mean to the document you had. That was me with that up. You just
we had the announcements up, but you want us to
I want to go back. That's because I see that I'm on my computer, and then when I'm scrolling reading this, there's a time when I'm scrolling and then it's blank for a period of time, and so I skipped it seems page 16 and 17 in this study. And I do think they're important pages, really important pages. And what happens when I was scrolling and it goes blank, it went blank for a period of time. And and before I got to this pages, but I really want to read 16 and 17 because I do think it's important. And so on page 16, our task is to unite our people under the leadership of the Black working class in the struggle for political independence, African liberation, and socialism. To unite our people under leadership of the Black working class. The party is a non-dogmatic, non-compromising, anti-opportunistic political leadership of our people and class in their struggle for power. It is the responsibility of the party to direct all the energies and forces of the masses toward the building of a new world. When we say the party is the vanguard or the advanced attachment of the colonized African working class, this must not be confused with the idea that the party and the working class are the same. The African People's Socialist Party is formed from the best sons and daughters of the domestically colonized Black working class. At any given time, the mass of the Black working class may exist in a state of demoralization or a morass of social backwardness or religious fatalism drug-induced lethargy, or a number of ailments often associated with the revolutionary defeat. Therefore, the party must consist of those Africans most dedicated to the revolutionary cause and not just anyone who wishes to join. Otherwise, the party would dissolve into the masses and would not be able to fulfill its task as the vanguard that carries behind it the entire Black working class. The party is the conscious vanguard detachment of the colonized Black working class, which must know and be able to creatively apply African internationalism, the ever-developing historical materialist theory of the party. In addition to being the advanced detachment of the domestically colonized African working class, the party is also the organized detachment of the African working class in the struggle for political independence, African liberation, and socialism. Embodied within the party is the solidarity of the colonized African working class. The party constitutes a strong organization in which all party members are united in a single collective and where every communist works under party control and bears individual responsibility for the affairs of the whole party. The significance of the party as the organized attachment of the Black working class is exemplified in this passage from one of the works by V.I. Lenin. Quote, "The party is the politically conscious, advanced section of the class. It is the vanguard. The strength of that vanguard is 10 times, 100 times, more than 1,000 times greater than its numbers. Is that possible? Can the strength of hundreds be greater than the strength of thousands? It can be and is when the hundreds are organized. Organization increases strength tenfold. The political consciousness of the advanced contingent is incidentally manifested by its ability to organize. By organizing, it achieves unity of will, and this united will of an advanced 1,000, 100,000, million becomes the will of the class." That was Lenin. And organization and political consciousness go hand in hand. Political consciousness is revealed in the first place by individuals becoming parts of organizations which have definite political aims and represent specific material interests. So I think that's, that was really important. I had inadvertently left that out. And organization made it possible for somebody to bring me a note, say, "Here, you left out these 2 pages." But the fact is that anybody who's ever been familiar with the party or think you're familiar with the party, one of the reasons people think they're familiar with the party is because they see our existence in 1,000 different ways, 1,000 different places with 1,000 different institutions, and they see our line being imitated by 1,000 different groups and things like that. And that's in part because of organization. It's a clear manifestation of the fact that organization magnifies the presence of the party many times more than the actual numbers of the party. So, Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman. And thank you so much for going back, looking at pages 16 and 17. And, I thought it coincided really well with how we closed out this section of the study. So again, really want to salute your leadership. This is an incredible document that bears so much relevance to this period. And we want to, again, have some questions, some discussion around this study. So we'll get to that in just a moment. We're going to take you through announcements very quickly. And the first one is to join the counteroffensive to stop the FBI attacks on the African People's Socialist Party and the African liberation struggle. Drop the charges against the Uhuru 3, sign the petition, the emergency response pledge for immediate text messages regarding the trial, read all of the court documents, and complete the Uhuru 3 trial commitment and volunteer form. Go to handsoffuhuru.org. And again, comrades, trial is beginning September 3rd in Tampa, Florida. We are calling on everyone all out to the trial to Tampa, Florida, September 3rd, beginning September 3rd. And you can go ahead and fill out that commitment form on handsoffuhuru.org. After today's Omali Taught Me study at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, join the African Socialist International for an online study and discussion titled France Out, U.S. Out, Forward the African Revolution, Build Solidarity with the African Resistance in Niger. Our speakers include Omali Yeshitela, the chairman, African People's Socialist Party. We have Loezi Kinshasa, the Secretary General of the African Socialist International. We have Comrade Ibrahim Amadou, Secretary General for the Union des Syndicats Libres de Travailleurs du Niger. We have Tafari Mugeri, the chair of the African People's Socialist Party Africa region. We have Comrade Afua Waller, the director of economics and finance for the African People's Socialist Party West Africa. And Comrade Morlai Conte, the chair of the African People's Socialist Party in Sierra Leone. So you can register for this discussion, again, following the Omali Taught Me Sunday study at 1 p.m. Eastern Time at tinyurl.com/handsoffniger. On Thursday, May 9th at 6 p.m. Central Time, tune in and donate to support the opening of the Uhuru Bakery and Cafe in St. Louis. All donations will be partially matched by Give St. Louis Day during the first hour of the telethon. If you are in St. Louis, you can join the live audience at 3719 West Florissant Avenue, the site of the new Uhuru Bakery and Cafe, or register on Zoom at tinyurl.com/Uhuru Bakery. Or watch the live stream on Black Power Blueprint's Facebook or YouTube channel. Contribute to a positive future led by the African community. Donate now through May 9th at givestlday.org/Black Power Blueprint. On Sunday, May 12th, come to Washington, D.C. for the Black Mothers March to stand against the colonial family regulation system known in many places as CPS, or Child Protective Services. The Black Mothers March is co-organized by the African National Women's Organization, Operation Stop CPS, the Upend Movement, Family Justice Tribe, and Movement for Family Power. Find more information at blackmothersmarch.com. On Wednesday, May 15th at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, join the African People's Solidarity Committee for part 2 of an important study and discussion: what is the colonial mode of production and how can white people be anti-colonialist? Register to reserve your seat in this study that will be held at the St. Louis Uhuru Solidarity Center and online. Go to apscuhuru.org/study. African Liberation Day 2024 celebrates 52 years of relentless leadership provided by the African People's Socialist Party towards the redemption of Africa. The APSP was founded on ALD in May of 1972 and has maintained its mission to complete the Black Revolution of the 1960s. This year, ALD will be a tricontinental celebration happening in South and West Africa, Europe, and throughout the U.S., building the global counteroffensive to the U.S. government attacks on Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru 3. Visit tinyurl.com/2024ALD to learn more about ALD happening in your area. And save the date for Saturday, May 25th at 6 p.m. Pacific Time at the World Beat Cultural Center in San Diego, California, to celebrate African Liberation Day. African Liberation is a special day for us. Again, it is the 52nd anniversary of the founding of the African People's Socialist Party. Enjoy cultural performances, vendors, and the keynote speaker is Chairman Omali Yeshitela. The theme is Victory to the African Nation, Drop the Charges on the Uhuru 3. For more details about this specific celebration in San Diego, California for ALD, you can go to uhuru3tour.eventbrite.com. The May issue of the Burning Spear newspaper is out. Digital subscribers, the digital edition is available to view in your account. Print subscribers, your copy is on the way. And to our regular distributors, your bundles are also on the way. If you haven't ordered yet, get a bundle of 25, 50, 100, or more to sell and mobilize those in your community. Go to theburningspear.store where you can order a one-time or recurring bundle. The Black Power Blueprint needs volunteers. That means you, yes, you. We are transforming our African community in North St. Louis through renovation, economic development, and political power by and for our community. Sign up at blackpowerblueprint.org/volunteer today. There are so many ways to contribute your skills and talents. New volunteer orientations are held every week in person or on Zoom. This is not like any other volunteer program. To us, you are not just a number. With the Black Power Blueprint, you are the heart and soul of everything we accomplish. Be part of something that will transform our community, and you will be transformed as well. Sign up today at blackpowerblueprint.org/volunteer. And make sure you like and subscribe to the Burning Spirit TV on YouTube to catch every episode of the Omali Taught Me Sunday Study. Uhuru Tours and Speakers Bureau is an institution of the African People's Socialist Party that coordinates events and tours for Chairman Omali Yeshitela and other party speakers and leaders. Book Chairman Omali and other Uhuru Movement speakers for your campus or organization now. Email info@uhurutours.com or call 727-914-3621. And lastly, for more information and events not mentioned here, please visit theburningspear.com/events to see everything happening inside the Uhuru movement. So comrades, that will conclude our announcements for today. Thank you for sticking through that as we now transition into questions and discussion. And Chairman, as mentioned, we're going to take some questions from last week, especially because, these questions I thought were really important. And we have viewing with us today, Cincinnati, Ohio, St. Louis, Missouri, New Jersey, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Grenada, West Indies, Battle Creek, Michigan, Southside Jamaica, Queens, New York, Geismar, Louisiana, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, occupied Azania or South Africa, Fort Myers, Florida, Comrade in Yindu, Gainesville, Florida, Flossmoor, Illinois, Largo, Florida, San Diego, California, Fresno, California, Brooklyn, New York, and Louisville, Kentucky all checked in with us this morning. So Uhuru comrades, thank you for joining us. Woo! Now, Chairman, let's go ahead and get into some of these questions from last week. Comrade Kumba asked this question. Chairman, you mentioned socialism. Was there opposition from other groups during that time to the party's call for socialism?
Uhuru, thank you, Comrade Kumba. And this whole question of socialism, there was opposition. It came in some interesting ways. One was the saying that socialism is a white man's thing. There's a white man talks about socialism, and I don't know Kumba is probably aware. I know Comrade Kumba, so he probably knows that the CIA itself created this concept of African socialism that was designed to take people away from the struggle of overturning the social system itself and trying to find some kind of cultural means by which socialism, as they define it, could be characterized. In fact, would demean the whole notion as to fight, to overturn our relationship to particular social system, class, and things like that. So to some concept of what a general kind of African socialism would look like. There was something about why you call yourself socialist and why you got to be socialist, et cetera. So yeah, socialism, there was some negative response to that, Comrade Kumba. But the thing is that was what we found, though, because there's a really popular kind of radio talk show that I have done frequently, and that question comes up all the time. And the question, what we found, two things. One, that when you talk about what socialism is, everybody can unite with it, as opposed to socialism, the boogeyman kind of concept. And secondly, generally speaking, we don't have that pushback from the African working class about socialism. It's only the petty bourgeois, different sects of the petty bourgeoisie, sometimes that might even characterize as radical, have raised that issue of socialism with us. Uhuru. Thank you, Kumba.
Uhuru, Comrade Kumba, yes, thank you for the question, and thank you, Chairman. We also have from Comrade Arthur last week asked, can the pedestal built on the colonial mode of production be pushed over using the vote?
Well, the thing about the vote is if you see the vote as a component of an overall strategic objective, the vote, for example, that might help to heighten recognition of the contradictions that exist between us and the colonial oppressors, and thereby, giving us an opportunity to mobilize people to get rid of this system. then yes. But otherwise, the fact is that the vote itself is something that is utilized to protect the system. It was not created as a means to overturn the system. It was something that protects the system. In fact, in this instance, as we've said, that the electoral process is simply provided as a nonviolent contest, generally speaking, between sectors of the ruling class for control of the oppressive system itself. And the problem they've had is that it was not intended for the colonized people to participate in the vote, the electoral process. And when we've entered into it, they've tried to make sure by the time they gave African people the right to vote, that they had killed off revolutionaries and obscured and undermined the whole notions of what Black people need and stand for, the question of power, so that it became a really harmless exercise that represented validating the system as opposed to challenging the system. So that's not what it was created for, and that's not simply true about voting within the United States. Is generally speaking, all over the continent of Africa, this whole thing of the vote is used against us, as opposed to it being used as an instrument through which we can achieve liberation from our colonialism. That's why what's really important is the party. That's why you have to have a revolutionary party with the objective of winning freedom, not winning the vote. So the fact is that we made more progress in terms of identifying contradictions and changing things before we got the vote. In reality, we didn't use the vote to get the vote. We used organization and struggle among the masses of people that created a crisis that made the vote necessary. So I hope, Arthur, that that served the purpose. It answered the question sufficiently. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman, and thank you, Comrade Arthur, for that question. And Comrade Arthur is on with us and raised a question for today as well. Just one more question from last week. Chairman, this was again regarding the first part of Building Consolidate that we read. Comrade Diop raised a question. Can you say more about Ronald Reagan, opening the door for the petty bourgeois opportunists?
What Reagan did, Reagan was a vicious, he was the Trump of his era. He was a vicious, much more polished kind of Donald Trump. I guess you can call him polished. I mean, all Africans saw through him quite clearly, but white people loved him. And even you saw this guy, Obama, with the ability to praise Reagan and what have you. He was a vicious pig. And he was somebody, when the Black Panther Party went to that California State Assembly and with this demonstration with the guns in 1967, I think it was, Reagan was walking, as the governor of California, was walking across the lawn or something and saw that and, made quite a thing about it. And so he was an enemy of the people. But what Reagan did, and we can only assume that he did it to win favor with Japan at the time. He recognized the reparations, the rights of reparations for some of the survivors of the Japanese who were thrown into concentration camps in this country during the Second Imperialist World War. And so he gave reparations to them in 1989. And that is the thing that sparked, really enhanced the movement toward certain Africans who did not support the reparations work that we had been doing. In fact, we had tried to create a reparations organization that would bring all of the so-called pro-independence African groups in this country together around the reparations. That everybody seemed to have agreed in that, but none of them would participate. And then when Reagan in 1989 gave reparations to the Japanese, they became believers. And so they rushed off to create their own reparations organization. after that. And that was the opportunism, because we always saw reparations as a function of the revolution, not as a way to get a lot of money or a big house or something to that effect, but something that would forward the liberation of our people. But they were about, in fact, we even lost member of the party because they want to see when we're getting the money, from the reparations demand, et cetera. So I think that's part of what we're talking about, Reagan facilitating, like the opportunism within the African liberation movement with that move. Uhuru. Comrade Diop.
Uhuru, Chairman. Thank you, Comrade Diop, and I appreciate that question, especially as we, just see this era of the petty bourgeois opportunists and the era of Trump.
Era of Trump, yeah, that's right. You're seeing similar phenomenon, but the era of Trump is also the era of Biden.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard to call it just his era. It's like,
yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, thank you, Comrade Diop, for that question. We are getting to the end here, and we have another event coming up shortly. So I want to be able to wrap this up in a timely manner. We did have just one more question. This is from Comrade Arthur, Chairman. And we'll go ahead and take it. Ask, what is the role of the intellectual in the party and the goal of independence? For instance, how does having book smarts help the party achieve power? That's the last question for today.
Yeah, I think that's really important because let me just say, you've probably heard me say it before, but what the colonizer does is crush in every possible way the ability of the colonized to achieve what is called education and what have you, generally speaking, and to be engaged in very serious intellectual activity, certainly self-serving. Chicago, they closed down 24 schools in the African community. Here in St. Louis, they closed down schools in the African community. They do everything they can to make it difficult, even for the so-called these historically Black, universities to not get resources, and they punish them for any kind of activity that represents, social activism. So, and when Algeria became independent, was that 1972? The Algerian Revolution, was it 72? Was it? But anyway, when Algeria became independence from France, 90% of the population, that was 62, 90% of the population was illiterate, had no kind of education, but they had to run a country. They had military forces to run. They had economy to manage. They had relationships, international relationships that they had to navigate and what have you. When Congo became independent in what, the 60 or 61, there were only 20 Africans who from Congo in the world who had university education. So what that meant is that the oppressor was the entity that the colonized had to rely on to even do anything. And that was the object. Of course, in Algeria, because the Algerians had access to different countries that had become, that were run by socialists at the time, Hungary, I think Cuba, and then there were certain solidarity forces from France that they were able to help run the government. So, when you talk about colonized people anyway, you can see there's a real profound significance of being able to have intellectuals who are there. But beyond that, there are intellectuals and there are intellectuals. And even what we suffer from is most of the intellectuals that we have access to who characterize themselves as revolutionaries have been, without any real kind of creativity. They've been educated by colonizers themselves, sometimes radical colonizers, and sometimes colonizers who may be characterized as revolutionaries. So looking at something today, and what you will see is that that those most significant intellectuals that come from the struggle against colonialism have challenged many of the notions of people who have been iconized within the Marxist or progressive European world. But intellectuals do have a role to play, and a really critical role. And that is to advance the struggle, to raise up the ideas, to help develop and pursue revolutionary ideas, because we are engaged permanently, constantly in a war of ideas. And this is what contributes to our ability to have the long view, to see beyond the immediate situation. So intellectuals do play like a really important role, and the books can play a really important role. And so I wanted to say that. And genuine intellectuals, of course, will escape the kind of frameworks that have been imposed on us. A lot of people consider intellectuals because they have good memories and they can memorize stuff others have been brought. I've forgotten, it was, what's his name? The guy who wrote the book, who wrote The Three Musketeers. Say it again. Yeah, Alexander Dumas. Yeah, but he made this whole point about the difference in, I think it was knowledge and wisdom or something like that, and I've forgotten exactly what it is, but it's something about you can have a good memory and I guess be characterized as as an intellectual, but you have to be also what is it, imagination or something to that effect. What was it? Anyway, it's not enough just to be able to memorize stuff, and which is unfortunately how most of the people characterized as intellectuals learn, so-called. And it's different from the process that many people, certainly in Africa, historically have achieved education. It's not dialectical, even when the people themselves are characterized as being dialecticians. It's from a very narrow European-based framework that does not bring into the equations the reality that most people in the world experience. It's so anyway. Comrade Arthur, I know I butchered that response, but we do believe in the significance of intellectuals. We have to create, the revolutionaries to create our own intellectuals. We believe that we have to have working class, African working class intellectuals. That's what we find ourselves constantly in the process of trying to produce. That's what this study is about right now, to create African working class intellectuals, so that the worldview of our intellectuals is based on an understanding, an appreciation of the role and destiny of Africa and Africans in creating the future. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman. Thank you, Comrade Arthur, for that question. And that will bring us to the end of this study. I want to just leave or say this quote from Comrade Jaribu. Says, if we are to reach African liberation in our lifetime, it will come through this level of commitment, leadership, discipline, and love for Africa and African people. Gratitude. So just wanted to acknowledge that comment and really, again, salute your leadership, Chairman, in this, in this whole process and with this study. And, again,
somebody forwarded me the thing from Dumas. He just said that there are those who have knowledge and those who have understanding. The first requires memory, and the second, philosophy. Okay.
True. True, Chairman. Well, would that constitute, or do you have any additional closing remarks before we officially shut the
No,
study?
it's very good. I appreciate everybody being here, and thank you so much, Director Akile, and all of the forces who we don't see that I know you've got working behind the scenes and making this a seamless kind of process and helping us to speak to people all around the world. Thank you so much, and thank everybody. Uhuru. Forward to the revolution.
Uhuru, Uhuru, victory to the African nation. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
And comrades, again, I want to also acknowledge the show team, as well as all of you for participating today and the brilliant leadership of our chairman, Amalia Shatella. Make sure to follow the chairman on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, and Instagram, and subscribe to the Burning Spear TV on YouTube to catch every episode of the Omali Taught Me Sunday Study. And join the African Socialist International in just 55 minutes for the US out, France out for the African Revolution, build solidarity with African resistance in Niger. Remember to register at tinyurl.com/hands-off-Niger. So meet us back there in just a little while. Uhuru, comrades, until the next Omali Taught Me Sunday Study. Vanguard up. Uhuru.
Relentless.